Hey guys, how's it going? This is Blue Pyro here, and this is going to be somewhat of something new for me. I've been playing this particular game that you guys are going to see, or I'm going to actually try to explain to you, and it's something I've been playing for a very long time, but I've never actually made a video about it. I intend to eventually end up getting myself a capture card, so that way I can record this kind of gameplay for you, so you guys can see it. This is going to be my team building guide for Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. This actually applies to all games. I mean, it could be used for that, but this is mostly for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Now, I have papers here that I've pretty much done my research on and stuff like that, so I can sit here and explain it to you guys the best I can. In order to do a proper team, you guys need 6 things. You need the first 3 start off representing your defensive core of the team. What that pretty much means is you're going to need a physical wall, a special wall, and then somewhat of a balanced wall. I'll explain the balanced wall a little bit later on. And then the second half revolves around physical attackers, special attackers, and then what I like to call a setup Pokemon. A setup Pokemon is going to be your boosting attacker that's going to go ahead and just try to sweep the rest of the game. Now, this is me in the process too, so let's start off with the defensive core. The defensive core is what you're going to be using to wall a majority of your opponent's Pokemon. That way, your Pokemon can take the hits, but at the same time, be able to set up stuff that you kind of need to have set up. Now, a lot of this stuff is going to revolve around your defensive core having a lot of stuff that you need to use. You're going to need entry hazards. That's the one thing that I usually look forward to. But as for a defensive core, let's start off with the EV spread that you're usually going to want to use for a defensive Pokemon. We're going to have to start off with, you're going to need to give your Pokemon EVs in HP. You're going to want them to be able to take hits, not die from one hit. So usually when I put together a Pokemon team, I like to have 3 different walls. Just like I said before, I like to have a physical wall that can take the physical hits, a defensive wall, especially defensive wall, who can take the specially defensive moves, and then a balanced wall, who, if one of my other Pokemon I don't have in the play right now, or I don't have in general, I could use the balanced wall to go ahead and just take both hits from anything. So for the defensive core characteristics, let me explain it to you. I have this all written down, so if you guys are wondering what I'm reading it from, it's from this piece of paper here. I have everything written down. First of all, you're going to want a Pokemon with a high HP. That's always necessary. And physical or especially defensive EVs. So this applies to always have 3 Pokemon on your team that are going to be walls. I always do that because I can't have just one wall and then 5 physical and special attackers. I mean, it's necessary. I mean, it could be done, but say if you decide to go ahead and just put one balanced wall on your team that could take both hits and then 5 physical or special attackers, you can win a game like that. It's not hard. I mean, Pokemon is, in my opinion, just strategy. You need to have a strategy in order to win. But this is the case that you need to do. I usually like to have 3 different Pokemon on my team that can take hits and survive them as much as they can. But they also are lead Pokemon as well. That's what I like to call my walls. They're kind of leads and pivots if you can. Pivots into ones you could switch into if you need to. The second one is you need to have a multitude of resistances and or immunities. I highly recommend, and I'm pretty sure a lot of YouTubers have said this before, you want to try to make sure you don't have more than 2 Pokemon on your team with the same resistance or the same weakness. So say if you have 2 Pokemon on your team that are weak to ground, kind of need to find something that can resist it. Try going for a flying type Pokemon. They resist ground type moves anyway. Or have as many immunities as you can. What you can do is go down, I'll try to see if I can put it in the description below, www.maryland.com/teambuilder. Or just go to Google and type in Pokemon Team Builder. It should come up for Maryland. Very famous YouTuber for those of you guys that don't know anything about it. Now, what you're going to also want to do is make sure your resistances, or make sure you have resistances that pretty much support each other's weaknesses. Say if I wanted to start my team off with the Snorlax. Snorlax is a very well-known physical wall because he can pretty much take anything. He could take any Focus Blast and still live with a pretty good portion of HP left. But his one major weakness is fighting. So if you bring out, or your opponent brings out a fighting type Pokemon, so say he brings out an Emboar or a Darmanitan, and they have max attack, max speed, and he gives you a max attack Focus Blast or a max attack Mach Punch or anything of the sort, or even a close combat to be exact, it could do a pretty hefty amount of damage to you. So you're going to want to make sure that you have a lot of physical defense on that Pokemon. You also want to have the resistances too. There's one Pokemon, or one typing in particular that I know that can resist fighting, and that's Ghost. You switch into a Pokemon, okay, you start off with Snorlax, your opponent brings out Primeape. Probably one of my favorite fighting type Pokemon of all time. And you know for a fact that a fighting type move is coming, or he's going to set up like Swords Dance, something like that, boost it up, and then try to go ahead and take you out. All that boosting can be easily stopped by switching into a Ghost type. That's why I always try to like to run a Ghost type on my team, so that way in case they bring out something that can hit a fighting type move and take out a majority of my Pokemon if they're weak to fighting, and just stop it. Ghost type can't be affected by it unless they have the Mold Breaker ability. Next, you're going to want to have access to status-inflicting moves. Scald, Toxic, Will-O-Wisp, anything of the sort. Something that can inflict a status condition to your opponent. That is what you're going to need to help break down your opponent's walls. If you use Toxic on one of your opponent's physical walls, no, not walls, I think it's physical attackers. I'm still learning this in the process too, but I've learned enough to actually be able to share my information with you guys. It's always good on your highly defensive Pokemon to have a move like Scald or Toxic. For example, I run Milotic a lot. And I usually like to run her with high special defense and high HP. And I give her Scald. Scald is a move that deals damage, but at the same time, you have a 30% chance to burn your target, which is a good move. I mean, I can't not run Scald on any of my Pokemon, or any of my water types. It's really good to have a move like that. Like I said, it can break down physical attackers in a heartbeat. And it's just really good to have. I mean, Toxic is... I don't usually use Toxic, but it's really good to stop. Next, you're going to want to have access to moves with a set base power. So, for example, say you have a move that has a base power of 70. It'll deal a pretty decent amount of damage. But you could also boost that base power up using something like Swords Dance or Howl if you're going to use Mightyena, which I actually want to bring to another Pokemon battle. It's good. You need to have access. It's highly required. So you want to have moves like Seismic Toss or Nightshade. Nightshade, I'm not sure if that's the move. No, it's Hex. Hex, if you bring that, that's not really a base power move. But Hex can lower the PP of your Pokemon, or your opponent's Pokemon moves. So say if they're running Fire Blast, and a lot of your Pokemon are weak to it, try bringing a Ghost type with Hex. Use Hex on them Pokemon after he uses Fire Blast, and it'll lower his Fire Blast by, I think, 4. So if you do it a few times without dying, you're good. Next, you're going to want to have a Pokemon that can set up, or you're going to want to have a Pokemon that can remove entry hazards. In this case, I usually like to run a Ground type, just because of the Stealth Rock's ability. Also, if that Pokemon can actually set up and remove hazards, then that's one thing that I've had covered. I don't need to worry about having somebody that can cover. If I can't find a Pokemon that can actually do Stealth Rocks or Toxic, or Spikes or Toxic Spikes or anything like that, then I'll usually bring somebody like a Flying type that can carry Defog, or a Rapid Spinner, or anything like that. Anybody that can do that. Next, you're going to want to have access to recovery moves. Recovery moves being Recover. That's actually the only one I really know who's Recover. I mean, I could be wrong. There could be more, but your walls are going to be taking a lot of hits, and you're going to want to be able to heal them up as much as you can. So it's really necessary to have any kind of recovery move. That way you can actually heal your Pokemon up. So let's use Milotic, for example. I apologize. I think I have hiccups. Or I have something. Milotic, I usually run Scald, Ice Beam, Protect, and Recovery, or Recover. That way she can heal up, she can inflict status conditions, she can also deal damage and protect herself if she needs to. That's usually what I usually... That's a pretty good moveset. Next, you're going to want to have access to phasing moves. For example, Roar or Whirlwind, or just anything that can stop somebody from setting up. If you use Roar on a Suicune that's hit Calm Mind, that setup, that boost that they've had, that's not going to stay. You can Whirlwind it out, or you can Roar it out, or anything like that. So usually when I run my Mightyena, or you guys will soon see her name is Kaya, K-I-Y-A-H, something that I've actually found online that I think I quite enjoy that name. I usually run Roar on her, just so that she can get those Pokemon out. But Mightyena, like I said, is not much of a defensive Pokemon. She's more of a physical attacker. So I'll usually keep her around if I need a physical attacker to use. Next is you're going to want to have some Pokemon with access to Heal Bell or Aromatherapy. Blissey, Clefairy, Clefable, Wigglytuff. Any of those Pokemon have access to Heal Bell. Celebi. There's a lot of Pokemon. Any type of grass type. Ferrothorn, I'm sure he could use Heal Bell or Aromatherapy, so it's good. Now, I have made this video for 11 minutes already, and I've pretty much tried covering the defensive core as much as I possibly can. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go over what possible Pokemon you can use to use as defensive Pokemon. So until the next video, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Stay tuned for a part 2. This has been Blue Pyro, signing off.